Hello, welcome back. Today I made a video about all of my Halloween DIY decor. So I really had been itching to make and decorate for Halloween. I used to be a visual merchandiser and do special events where I could decorate for Halloween and Christmas and all that fun stuff, and I haven't been able to do that for many years, so I had the itch to really decorate. And this is the first time I get to decorate for Halloween. So I thought, what can I do? So I came up with a three witches idea. It got stuck in my head. I went to the thrift store and I bought most of my things at the thrift store. So I bought fabric. I bought little doodads that I found here and there. I did buy some potion bottles that I thought would be really cute. And I had this great idea to make this cool little contraption here for the witch's crystal ball, but then I realized this is glass and I don't want to start a fire, so we canceled that idea. I pivoted. I found stuff that I had already had and that was plastic and safe and not going to start any fires in the front yard, so that's what I did. And today I'll show you those DIYs that I did. It required painting, cutting, spray painting. I used cardboard for some bats, so we'll go through everything that I did. I just didn't show you how I put everything together just for safety of where I live, because it's in my front yard and I didn't want to show too much of that. So today's video I will show you how I made table decor for the little witches spell table. I made spell books, I made little potions. Let's see, I put the witches together using tomato cages, and I bought some foam skull heads that I found at Michael. They were already on sale at the beginning of October. Apparently Halloween starts in August now. Very sad because now all the Christmas stuff is out now that it's not even Halloween yet. So that's what I did. I hope you'll enjoy the video and I'll see you later. Bye. And the first DIY Halloween decor that we are starting with is our potion bottle. And I just had this potion bottle. It was actually a gift from my mother-in-law to my niece. There was jelly beans in it and I had to pivot, so I thought, oh, this is perfect for our Halloween witch potion bottle, in which I did buy a few glass ones, but I had to cancel that idea because, you know, fire and glass and hazard. So I did have all these beads on hand. I think I had them in my stash for quite a while. I think I got them in one of those bags that they have at the thrift store where they stick a bunch of junk in them and you just buy them all for one price. So I just mixed them all up in here and I thought it looked pretty cool. So this is what our first craft was. Pretty simple, just beads and a plastic jar. And then I thought it looked empty because it used to have a jewel at the top, but it broke off. So I had these resin stashed away in my stash that I had made a while ago because I go through quite a bit of hobbies. And I thought these are perfect to add some more decorative vibes to the witch potion. So I glued some together to put a handle. I glued one by the moon to just add a little extra touch. And then I thought it was still missing something, so I added hot glue and a little bit more beads to the top to add a little more zest to the potion bottle. Our next potion or ingredient for our witch's table will be these brains. I actually found them at the thrift store. They were probably overpriced. I think I paid about $2 each. I found one. I said, oh, this is perfect. And then on my way out, I found another one and I thought, oh, even more perfect. I'll just paint these up. So that's what I'm doing. They are stress balls for some therapy, I think. And I just mix some colors together to get a sort of purpley gray pink. This acrylic paint here has always been kind of gloopy. I don't know why. Maybe some air got in it or it's bad, but I smoothed it out and it worked out perfectly. And as the tops of our brains are drying, I go ahead and I found these stashed away. I think they also came in one of those random bags at the thrift store. I didn't want them, but they were in there. I think they're probably from the dollar store or something. So I decided to paint the insides with a light wash of paint, acrylic paint watered down, and I painted that on the outside as well. And then I went ahead and tried to dry brush, but I was too impatient for the underpaint to dry, so you'll see in the green one as well. When I quote unquote dry brush the tops of them, it's not so much dry brushing, but it gives a little effect and a kind of peekaboo, creepy vibes, which is what I was going for. So here's our first one. And then we'll paint the bottoms of our brains, which the tops weren't exactly all the way dry, but I was as careful as can be. I mean, they don't need to be perfect. They're just going to be outside anyway. And then I took this kind of neon green paint and I did the same thing that I did to the purple one. Just a quick little coat on the inside and on the outside, and then tried to dry brush the outside with black, but I didn't wait long enough for the paint to dry. So it kind of just, turned into a gray, but it was fine. I didn't really care too much. And now that our brains are mostly dry, I'm going to go ahead and use a red paint and the smallest brush I have. And I'm just going to trace the outlines of the squiggles in the brain to kind of give it that creepy, just fresh from the body brain look. And I think they turned out pretty cool. And I wanted to add some height to our brains because I'm going to put them in these bowls. So I just kind of made a little riser out of cardboard by making, I guess, a mini cardboard box by slitting the corners, folding them in, and hot gluing them. Like so. And here's what our finished little box riser will look like. Oh, that's right. I did not make these for the brains. I made the riser for these eyeballs. So once again, a woman of many hobbies. Many years ago, I got into polymer clay. So I had all of these little eyeball charms laying around that I made almost 10 years ago now. So I thought, perfect, let's add these to our witch's potion area. So I just glued some cheesecloth in there and some cotton balls underneath first, and I also went and dry brushed some black to kind of make it look dirty. Here are all my little eyeballs, and then I just hot glue gunned them right into the little bowl. They're still holding up pretty well. I actually set this up around October 20th, I believe. So everything's still holding up and everything's just been hot glue gunned. And here are my bowl of eyeballs. So spooky. And back to our brains, we're going to use more of this cheesecloth. This is what I used for the eyeballs as well. So I'm just going to cut a piece like I did for the eyeballs. And then I went ahead and dry brushed some black paint all over it to kind of make it look yucky. And I hot glue gunned that in place, and then I hot glue gunned the brains in place. And I later actually added some bloody looking cotton balls by dipping them in red paint. And this is my brains. Well, not mine, but you know. This craft I was especially excited to do, which was to make a bunch of different kinds of spell books. So I went to the thrift store and I just found a bunch of, books that I would never read, and mostly they're sports books. And I used hot glue gun to kind of write out. I should have used my smaller glue gun because my arm was a little tired from crafting, so it was a little bit shaky. But this is kind of what they turn out with, like when they're dry. And so when they're dry, then you use some acrylic paint, and I just kind of painted it all one base color, and then I kind of matched them to whatever color the books were. And then I went over and added some spookies by dry brushing some white paint, as well as I had this kind of like gold acrylic paint that I used. I made quite a few of these books, but they were all the same process, so I only showed about 2 of maybe 6. And this is how my spell book turned out. Pretty cute and pretty easy Halloween craft. Now this witch cauldron, I initially wanted to make a really big one out of like a bucket and some paper mache, but time was running out, so I actually bought this new at Spirit Halloween. It was only about $10, so I thought, this will have to do. Next year we can go bigger. So it was a little bit too smooth for my liking, so I wanted to make it kind of look rusty and old and used. So I mixed in baking soda with acrylic paint, and I did a thick layer. Actually, I think I did like 2 thick layers of this all over the outside of the cauldron to give it that kind of creepy cast iron look. And now that our base coat is dry, I went ahead and grabbed some orange, brown, and green paint. I'm just gonna dry brush that on in random spots to kind of make it look rusty and used, and kind of like either it's potions or moss kind of mixed in. You can get creative with it, put it wherever you want. It's kind of just an organic look, and I thought it turned out pretty cool. Very easy, simple, and soothing craft. And here's what my cauldron looked like. Very nice, very nice. Now I cut out a bunch of cardboard bats because I wanted to make a bat arch, and I got this plastic dip because I wanted to kind of make it waterproof in case, but as you see, it's not going to be that cold here where I live during Halloween, a bit hot, so I thought, you know what, it doesn't matter. So I actually used the whole thing of plastic dip, but I could have just used spray paint or acrylic paint is what I would use because my fingers were killing me, but this is what they looked like. They had spray paint and plastic dip. make our 3 witches, I had an old pool noodle that I cut up into 3 sections and then cut those sections in half. So that's one of the little 3 sections here. And then I cut those in half, so that's one of the arms. I duct taped and zip tied the top together. And then I just duct taped the arms in place on both sides. And then I had this fabric from the thrift store that I kind of laid the way I liked it. And then what I did, because it does get windy here, is I cut some little holes under the arms and I zip tied it together so that the wind doesn't kind of pick it up. And I also zip tied the sides right there to the tomato cage to keep it tight. And here's our skull, our foam skull. I just kind of pressed it in place, put another scrap fabric, and the hat. I did glue those down, but this is just for visuals. And then that's our witches. And here's our final reveal. Not too much because I don't want to give too much away of where I live, but this is how it turned out. Pretty spooky, pretty cute. I've gotten some compliments so far, so I think I did an okay job. Yeah, let me know what you think. If you try any of these out for next year, they're pretty easy. Happy Halloween. Thanks for watching. Bye.